Let's talk about what's going on over in Europe because of our poor leadership. Companies are overwhelmed with inquiries for nuclear bunkers in Switzerland and reporting shortage of materials following Ukraine invasion. Since the 1960s, every Swiss municipality had to build nuclear bunkers for residents. Residents are now contacting specialist companies to build or renovate shelters. The bunkers are being viewed in a new light since Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
What Switzerland needs is 200-gallon propane tanks for the impending Russian oil embargo.
So under Donald Trump, no new wars. Now, under Joe Biden, bunkers. Nuclear bunkers. Congratulations, I guess. You voted
we went from if it saves one life to how bad can World War III be?
Yeah, that's exactly. Amazing, I mean, if it's for a good cause. Let's do it.
If it saves one life, we'll vote for Joe Biden, one of the most corrupt individuals to ever serve government.
And then Anthony Blinken and the defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, are like posing with Zelensky.
Who's the defense secretary? What's her name?
Lloyd Austin.
Lloyd Austin's the guy?
Yeah. Like, how much more direct involvement in Ukraine are we going to get?
Oh, it seems like we're going in. I don't know for sure, but I think it's good. Look, Vladimir Putin, Russia, they already believe they're at war with NATO. There's no, it is, in my opinion, ignorant, propagandized Americans who don't understand this point. Do you think that Vladimir Putin is sitting there saying, I sent my troops into Ukraine and they're fighting NATO tanks and fighter jets? That's just Ukraine. Or do you think he's like, I'm at war with NATO? He's at war with NATO. All of the weapons, even the people. Do you think Vladimir Putin is sitting there watching American veterans fighting in Ukraine and he goes, well, those are just volunteers? Or is he saying America, NATO countries are sending people. They're coming in. They're being armed by NATO.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll put it this way. When we found out that non-government Russian citizens purchased $46,000 worth of Facebook ads related to the 2016 presidential election.
4,600.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4,600.
Take out a zero.
Wow. So even better. Helps me make my point even better. When that occurred and we learned that, there were respectable figures in American politics saying that that was an act of war by Russia against the United States of America.
Well, the only answer is World War III.
Oh. Obviously.
Yeah. Let's just blow it all up.
It's funny that like the people who always tell us to go to war are telling us to go to war now. I mean, there must be a good reason.
I mean, you'll notice something. None of this is going to the UN. All these like accusations of war crimes and all of these other accusations, whatever, none of it's going to the UN because they know. I mean, they already know. They tried to get a condemnation of Russia, and the rest of the world's like, no, we know what you're up to.
Like sticking a bunch of troops and artillery on the border of a country, of a sovereign country.
Well, that's,
acting shocked when they invade to destroy the border defenses.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Putin said when he invaded. Is he's like, look, you're creating an untenable security situation on my border, and technically, by international law, I believe that justifies going in. You can't have terrorists on somebody's border and expect them to take it. No, I mean, Israel and Saudi Arabia do it, and that makes for a very awkward situation.
I think the main reason that the Democratic establishment has been screaming Russia for so long is they know that Putin is like one guy in Europe that won't fall in line. That they've got everybody bending the knee to the new plans for their economic bloc except for Russia.
Yeah, well, and when you can successfully convince a large portion of the American population that the presidency is under the control of the Russian government, anytime the president doesn't try to step up aggressive acts with Russia, they can claim that it's just evidence that he's bought and sold by them. So,
and remember when we opposed the Iraq war, we were called terrorist sympathizers. Yep. And wait for the midterms to come in. Anybody who opposes our actions in Ukraine is going to be called a Putin sympathizer.
Exactly.
So I'm ready. It's not my first rodeo.
And back then they said, you don't care about freedom. We need to fight for freedom. And now they go, we need to protect our democracy. It's just more meaningless buzz phrases.
We protect it by securing our borders, bringing manufacturing back, focusing on our infrastructure. Our roads are crumbling. Our bridges are crumbling. We need clean water in places, in small cities all over this place. We got bad pipes. Instead, it's just like, can we send $1 billion to Ukraine again? Yeah, that's what our labor is good for, I guess, to go. So that's the other thing too. It's like if our money is funding this, do the people behind it really matter? If they're piloting drones, even like at what point It doesn't matter who the person is behind it. It matters who's funding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a
And
lot
In
of
which
truth
case,
there.
nuclear bunkers, World War III, everybody.
That's the ballet, is what can the U.S. fund legally in Ukraine? And that's why it's like we can't get directly involved, but we can do Lend-Lease, and we can send, military experts and advisors. And
This is what's ridiculous. If I'm watching a dude throw rocks at me, all right, am I going to be like, well, technically, or I'll put it this way: if Ian is throwing rocks at me and Seamus is handing him the rocks, am I going to be like, Seamus is not involved in this?
Hold on a second. No, I didn't tell him to do that with the rocks.
But you didn't tell me not to.
No,
I was just passing rocks to Ian.
Ian goes, Seamus, give me rocks, and you're like, you got it, buddy. And then I'm like, I'm only at war with Ian.
No,
Seamus is doing nothing wrong.
The Nazis declared war on the United States because they were giving weapons to the British. As the Germans were already at war with the British. And then when they're like, okay, enough's enough. Can you please stop? So first they tried to, I think they started sinking stuff with U-boats. So that's kind of how they announced their war. But yeah, if you lend lease to someone's enemy, they're going to look at you as an enemy for sure. Right. I just don't think Putin is looking at global domination or has
he's not.
any intention outside of Eastern Ukraine.
He doesn't want Ukraine to become a NATO country because it means he's got artillery on his front doorstep. I mean, you saw that explosion. Yeah,
he's already got 2 NATO countries on his doorstep.
Yeah, I know. He's got enough problems already, but, he doesn't need one more. Was that explosion that happened that was, like, closer to Moscow than Kiev?
Yeah. What was that about? There was some explosion at...
the fuel depot or something.
Yeah, he's got Latvia and Estonia. They're NATO countries already on his border.
And, one other thing, notice they had the worst COVID lockdowns in the world. Like, you could not get a job if you were not vaccinated.
Who, in Russia?
No, the Baltic states, Lithuania and stuff. And, like, people had to basically develop a black market. And this is what I keep saying. It's geopolitics that's fueling the lockdowns. It's like based on how much the EU-US powers want people to bend the knee to them is how deep the lockdowns are going.
I think it has a lot to do with oil. Is my camera broken?
Yeah, apparently.
My camera's... That's weird because it works over here.
I can see you.
Well, this one works. Hey, look, we have a map of Europe while I talk.
Map of Estonia.
Right.
OBS is on the fritz.
Axis and Allies, here we go.
I love that game.
But I think we talked about it before. Oil has a lot to do with it. Ukraine there's a transport for oil. It's not the camera because the camera it's clearly working right now. It's just OBS scenes crapped out on us for some reason. We'll have to make emergency backup scenes. We just don't have emergency backups for the right one. I wonder why that happens.
Huh.
These things are all a part of growing up.
These things happen.
Yeah, but anyway, the question is, will Vladimir Putin use nukes, and do we need nuclear bunkers?
He's not going to use nukes because once he uses nukes, he knows he's lost the war. I mean,
why would he lose the war?
He becomes a pariah state.
Yeah, it would be Russia would be taken apart by the global community if he fired nukes.
It's purely a scare tactic.
I disagree. I think he could use a 100-kiloton bomb on Kiev and no one would do anything about it. And they've already been economically isolated.
People have already said he actually has no interest in Kiev. Bryansk was where the explosion happened.
Bryansk. How do you spell that one?
Bryansk.
Bryansk. Oh yeah, look at that. So what is that about? No idea. There were also a string of food plants exploding. Do you guys see that?
Also very.
Yeah, I heard about that. Very bizarre.
And plane crashes at food plants.
So people talk about supply chain disruptions. What we're really in is a trade war. And this is the one, like, really digging critique you can make of Trump, is he thought he could just renegotiate trade deals and not disrupt the geopolitical order, because trade deals are diplomatic deals. And he saw it himself, right? All of a sudden China's broke and they can't pay for something, so he had to give them some deal in order for them to have the money to pay off something else. And now it's like their economy's crumbling. You had the default and everything. So what we're really seeing is the entire geopolitical order is starting to crumble and it needs to reset. Not the great reset, but it needs to reset. And it's something I called out earlier today. I think if we prevail, you're going to have a lot of billionaires bankrupt or in prison by 2030.
When you mean we prevail, what is that exactly?
the new media people, the Elon Musk, Elon Musk is like the future. And I don't mean that as a suck up. I mean, like, he realizes what are the new technologies, what are the new trends where we can really go into the next generation, into 2050. Like, he believes global warming is real, but he has like concrete engineering ways to actually get past it. He believes in nuclear, whatever. Whereas you have this old guard, which is like the WEF people who honestly believe like genocide is how you stop global warming. Like, it's like, you ever saw the movie Moonraker with the James Bond movie Moonraker? Yeah. It's like, humanity's poisoning the planet. I have to kill them all and repopulate the planet. I mean, it's pretty much
like Kingsmen as well. Here, do you want to switch it to my camera real quick? I can try and see if
what the heck is this?
The scene was removed. That's what happened. So it accidentally got deleted.
How?
So
we've been using it successfully all
evening. So it's not there. We can't re-add it while we're currently live.
Regarding climate change, you can pull the carbon dioxide out of the air and deposit it onto like carbon palladium.
Not out of the air, out of the water. And this is fascinating. If you make water acidic, it will bubble up the carbon dioxide. And water, as we know from soda water, is a great dissolver of carbon dioxide. So what you do, and they're starting to do this, explore with naval ships so they can produce their own fuel, is they pump in seawater, they separate it into acid, they make part acidic, part alkaline seawater. The acidic seawater bubbles up the carbon dioxide, and then they can synthesize that carbon dioxide back into fuel. It's called synfuel. And the kicker is it costs about $3 a gallon to manufacture it. You've got a carbon negative way of manufacturing gasoline. You could solve the whole world fuel problem and global warming at the same time.
What'll happen is we'll start competing with the trees. We'll be pulling so much carbon out of the water and the air that we'll have to think
exactly.
ahead.
We'll have to calibrate to keep it at 350.
Is this a theoretical technology or this exists?
This exists, and there's papers in it. I was reading about it. It's only a matter of scaling it to be cheap enough. They said you can do this on a naval aircraft carrier for about $3 a gallon. If you did it on the shore, you could probably get it cheaper because you don't have to make everything, portable or whatever. But the idea is just in the naval situation, then you don't have to constantly go fuel up at port. You could be out your aircraft carrier indefinitely like a nuclear submarine or something.
There's also a technology called microfragmentation that you can do with coral, where you take coral, you shatter it into a bunch of different pieces, and you set them all near each other.
No. I fixed it.
And then they all start to grow together. To regrow coral reefs or to build new ones on other planets. Right. The technology with iron fertilization to regrow the plankton in the oceans, we're there to heal the earth. We're pulling the plastic out. We can reconvert that.
Absolutely. There's so much tech out there. And that's what bugs me is like all of this global warming stuff that our government is talking about. It's all just pork. None of it is actually, it's like a Chernobyl on a global warming level. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to be another ecological disaster if our government does what they want to do.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.